Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90.
The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
Donald Trump becomes the first former American president to be convicted of felony crimes. A New York jury finding him guilty on all 34 charges that Trump took part in an illegal scheme to influence the 2016 election through hush money payments to an adult film star. Trump will likely appeal the conviction. He's being sentenced on July 11th, just days before the Republican National Convention. Manhattan prosecutors did not say whether they would seek prison time for Trump. The former president announcing he will be speaking in New York today. Trump announcing on Truth Social he will hold a news conference at his namesake tower. As he prepares to return to the campaign trail, lawyers and allies of the former president and presumptive Republican nominee say he is ready to fight. The Biden campaign responding to Trump's guilty verdict, declaring on social media, saying, quote, "There's only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box." He also included a link to a fundraiser for his campaign for re-election. Those are your headlines. Now here's a look at your weather on the ones.
I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez. Today we continue to have some cooler weather in the Northwest with highs in the 60s in Seattle and also in Bismarck. LA up to 73 degrees today. This morning we started the day with frosted advisories for parts of New York up into Maine. You will have a gradual warm up into the weekend. A lot of rain across the Midwest and parts of the South. There could be some flash flooding in Texas today.
The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury.
The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll. An historic moment in American history, a former president convicted of felony crimes for the first time. And today we'll hear more from Donald Trump after he was found guilty of all 34 charges in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election. The jury convicting Trump after less than 10 hours of deliberations. This is the verdict sheet that lists all of the charges. We have comprehensive team coverage this morning. We'll have reaction, discuss what comes next, and how the verdict could impact the presidential race. National reporter Angie Gonzalez has more.
A case once bemoaned by some legal experts as the weakest of the 4 criminal trials facing former President Donald Trump, the trial ended with a verdict that makes the 45th president the first former president in.
This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, disgrace.
The trial itself lasted several weeks, but it took a jury just 2 days to find Trump guilty of all 34 counts against him. Each stemmed from Trump's falsification of business records that prosecutors argued were carried out to illegally influence the 2016 election. At the center of the case, checks Trump sent to his personal lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen to reimburse him for paying off adult film actress Stormy Daniels, who says she had an extramarital affair with Trump.
While this defendant may be unlike any other in American history, we arrived at this trial and ultimately today at this verdict in the same manner as every other case that comes through the courtroom doors, by following the facts and the law and doing so without fear or favor.
Trump could, but it's up to the judge and is not mandatory. Trump is expected to appeal the decision, but his sentencing in July will likely happen before any of those efforts are resolved.
You cannot find another case in the Manhattan District Attorney's, in the history of that office, where they did what they did here, which is charge somebody for conduct that was 8 years old.
Before Trump's sentencing, his convictions shouldn't have a big impact on his life day to day. They don't bar him from running for president, and his ability to vote in November will come down to whether or not he's sentenced to prison time in New York. In Washington, Angie Gonzalez, Spectrum News.
Spectrum's Ayanna Harry has been in the courtroom every day for the trial. Here's what she witnessed at the moment the verdict was announced.
The former president sat up in his chair. He stood and stared, looking forward. As the jury walked in past him, none of them turned.
Star witness and former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen says he's not surprised by the guilty verdict, adding he's, quote, relieved. In an interview on MSNBC, Cohen says this is 6 years in the making. As for Trump, his lawyer Todd Blanche spoke on CNN, saying New York was not a fair place to try the case.
As we can appeal, we will. And the process in New York is there's sentencing, and then we appeal from there. There were key decisions made before the trial started and during the trial that I don't want to use a fair or unfair, but that we think were not consistent with the law.
I was nervous because so much was riding on the result of this, and I wanted to ensure that my testimony was perfect.
And Trump's legal troubles are far from over. Spectrum's Evan Kozlov has a look at the other trials Trump is facing.
The former president, where he's facing federal charges connected to the retention of classified documents.
It was back in August 2022 when federal agents raided Mar-a-Lago after prosecutors say Trump refused to hand over classified documents once leaving office. In June of last year, Trump was formally charged and now faces 40 felony counts. The judge, Eileen Cannon, is a Trump appointee, and so far, no trial date has been set. Next, let's hop over to Georgia, where Trump is facing state charges connected to his alleged role in a scheme to overturn the 2020 election. In August, Trump was formally booked at a Fulton County jail, leading to the first ever mugshot of a former president. Central to the prosecutor's case is a January 2021 phone call between then-President Trump and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, when Trump said this.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one.
A perfect phone call. The case was also delayed amid revelations of a romantic relationship between District Attorney Fani Willis and a special prosecutor Nathan Wade.
It is a lie. It is a lie.
In February, the two answered questions in a dramatic hearing before Wade stepped down. And lastly, let's head to Washington, D.C., where Trump faces federal election interference charges. Prosecutors say Trump tried to enlist fake electors, pressured state leaders to change the results, and exploited the pro-Trump mob on January 6 to try and stop the vote count in Congress.
If you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
And right now, there's no trial date for the federal election interference case, in part because we're waiting on a major ruling from the Supreme Court. It was back in April that the justices heard arguments over a Trump claim the president should have complete immunity from prosecution. The Supreme Court is expected to make a final ruling on this at the end.
Next on Spectrum News, continued coverage of the monumental verdict in the Donald Trump hush money case. Former President Trump guilty on all 34 charges. More analysis just ahead.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your devices exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, we know how much you depend on the road. Now, we've taken a new step forward in reliability by identifying potential service issues before they become a problem. If you're affected, we'll contact you and help schedule a free service appointment with one of our expert technicians. The proactive maintenance of our network is one of the many reasons Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds in the nation. Spectrum, keeping you connected.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I found hope in the midst.
Any family, everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez. It has been an active month of severe weather. As you know, many tornado outbreaks that we've been telling you about. This map is showing us the number of tornadoes so far this year per state. And look at that in Iowa, 103. And we've had more than 60 in Missouri, Illinois, and into Ohio. New York's had 1, North Carolina 11, and then we can also see parts of the West with a handful right there in California and more than 90 in Texas. And we could add on to that number today as there is a risk of severe storms, including around San Antonio and in Houston. But you can see the risk of getting even some hail or high winds is in eastern portions of Colorado. That extends into parts of Arkansas and into Louisiana. So right around New Orleans and up into near Memphis, we do have to watch for some strong or severe storms today. Tomorrow, that risk low in Memphis, Houston, and Dallas and Fort Worth, but we still have a level 2 out of 5 risk right there in portions of Nebraska, Iowa, and into parts of western Texas. Now, the showers and the thunderstorms are going to continue to increase in intensity. Heavy rain, strong to severe storms around Dallas, Fort Worth. Rain moves into St. Louis late today and tonight, and then tonight and on Saturday, I have areas of rain in places like Chicago and in parts of Kentucky and Tennessee with showers and thunderstorms. So in Milwaukee today, enjoy the drier afternoon, 75 and partly sunny. Chicago 77 today, but your rain chance begins tonight and it ramps up tomorrow. Des Moines is 78 degrees. Indianapolis also in the 70s with sunshine. Kansas City, some showers and storms will be around. Our temperature today at 73. The low tonight will dip down to 64 degrees, but we do have to watch for the risk of some stronger or some severe storms possible for parts of the Midwest.
This evening, we're after his monumental 34-count conviction. The jury returning the verdict after less than 10 hours of deliberations. The panel found Trump falsified business records to cover up a $130,000 payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels by then lawyer Michael Cohen. Trump continues to deny any wrongdoing, calling the trial rigged. He's expected to be sentenced on July 11th. Our Alyssa Paulelli joins us now from outside of Trump Tower, where the former president is expected to speak later today. Alyssa, what kind of presence are you seeing there right now?
We are only seeing a large security presence, less than we saw yesterday, which was outside of Trump Tower. There was definitely supporters and those who were against the former president who have gathered after that verdict came down. I want to show you what it looks like here along Fifth Avenue, a similar kind of security presence that we saw more in line to when Trump was in the Oval on several blocks. There's a large police presence here in anticipation of potential crowds that may gather here when that press conference is going on inside of Trump Tower. We saw both supporters of the president and those who are against Trump gathering outside both the courthouse yesterday as well as here along Fifth Avenue after the verdict was read. As for the Trump family, Ivanka Trump broke her silence on Instagram, posting a photo with her father from when she was younger with the caption reading, "I love you, Dad." She and her husband, Jared Kushner, have been absent from several of the appearances that some of the family members have made throughout this trial. But Bree, there's anticipated to be a large gathering of crowds here along Fifth Avenue once the president speaks at this press conference today.
All right, Alyssa Paulelli, thank you very much. The Biden campaign is also responding to the historic verdict. Spectrum's Jenna Enoch is here with that side of the story. Jenna.
Biden's communication director writing, quote, "No one is above the law," adding, quote, "Today's verdict does not change the fact that the American people face a simple reality. There is still only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box. Convicted felon or not, Trump will be the Republican nominee for president," end quote. Biden echoed the statement with a similar message on X, where he posted a link to a fundraising page. Bree?
And Jenna, has the White House formally commented on the verdict?
Bree, yes, the White House did issue a brief response saying, quote, "We respect the rule of law and have no additional comment," end quote. Now, the administration says there are no plans for the president to deliver any formal remarks, but reporters will likely ask him about the verdict later on today. The Biden family is facing its own legal battle next week when the president's son, Hunter Biden, goes on trial. He is by a gun that he kept for about 11 days in Delaware. That trial is likely to add more fuel to an already explosive election season. Bree, back to you.
Jenna, thank you very much. It's important to take note how journalists are documenting this historic moment in American history. Here are some headlines from across the country. We begin with the top of the Washington Post. The front page has a red box for each of the 34 guilty counts and reads, "Trump found guilty." Heading now to the Wall Street Journal, we see the headline, "Trump convicted." USA Today has Trump guilty, and the New York Times simply says guilty. Now, I want to point out an important contrast here. When you look at the cover of the New York Post, it says injustice. And that's a look at some of the headlines across the country. Here's what some of them told us in New York City.
I'm going to support him no matter what. If he goes to jail, I've got his back. He's got my back as a gay man.
I'm delighted. I only hope the verdict sticks. I hope Trump and his followers believe in our justice system, believe in the integrity of New Yorkers.
Today is an excellent day for America, democracy, and democracy around the world.
I don't know how to put it to words. I feel like it was a long time coming, and yet it seemed like nothing would ever be held accountable towards him.
Sham trial, it was rigged. There's so many issues with it, from conflict of interest, from the judge, the DA.
He's done a lot of stuff that isn't great, and so, if you're guilty, you should be put in jail. And that's why he got found. I think it's awesome.
Ahead on Spectrum News, a new Scripps Spelling Bee champion, how he claimed the win after the competition's second ever spell off.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Hey, we go find out. Listen.
Do clouds take naps? I couldn't tell you. Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez. Hurricane season begins tomorrow, and a reminder, we are expecting it to be an active year. Well, you can see the forecast from Colorado State University and from NOAA showing an above average season. 14 Named storms, 7 hurricanes. That's a Category 3 or higher. That's the average. But for Colorado State, forecasting more than 20 named storms, 11 hurricanes and 5 major hurricanes. NOAA has a range of 17 to 25 named storms, 8 to 13 hurricanes, and 4 to 7 major hurricanes. Now, right now, we don't have anything expected to develop today or for the weekend. Have a couple of tropical waves, one here in the Caribbean, a couple more out here in the Atlantic, but it's a good time to prepare. It's the beginning of the season. We don't have anything threatening any land right now. Remember, you can always get updates on the Spectrum News app. You'll also find more information on how to prepare and a list of supplies. You know, it's interesting to look at this list. Last year, we had Arlene form on the first day, June 1st, 2023. Alex was June 5th, 2022. We had a period of time, several years, where we had our first named storm happen before June 1st. And when you look at this, Arlene was in April 19th, 27 record that there's been a named storm in the month of April. It happened in the middle of the Atlantic, though. And before we had weather satellites, that would have been nearly impossible to detect. But that is a look back at the A storms. Now let's take a look at what we're watching for you today, because we have thunderstorms breaking out across parts of Texas and Oklahoma, some severe today. Rain is going to increase through St. Louis, Chicago, and Milwaukee tonight and Saturday. Saturday morning, a rainy start here, including right around Indianapolis and for parts of Kentucky. And then you'll notice in Ohio, the chances of rain are increasing Saturday through Sunday. And then we'll start to see some of that rain moving to parts of the Northeast. On the West Coast, we've had some cooler weather. Seattle 68 degrees, San Francisco 68, and LA 73. San Antonio's 94 with the thunderstorms around. 73 Minneapolis, 68 degrees in Buffalo, and Raleigh's at 79 degrees today. The lows tonight will stay warm in the 70s in Florida. Some 60s all the way up to 59 degrees for tonight. And then your Saturday afternoon is featuring a hot one in Las Vegas, over 100 degrees, Little Rock at 85, and Nashville at 81.
If you're just joining us or heading out the door, here's a look at what you need to know. Donald Trump becomes the first former American president to be convicted of felony crimes. A New York jury finding him guilty on all 34 charges that Trump took part in an illegal scheme to influence the 2016 election through hush money payments to an adult film star. Meanwhile, Trump speaking this morning from his namesake tower in New York City. In his post, he also added his campaign slogan, MAGA 2024. The press conference will take place at the Trump Tower atrium around 11 a.m. today. And the Biden campaign also responding to Trump's guilty verdict that no one is above the law. President Biden also posting on his X account saying, quote, "There's only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box." And that's a look at what you need to know this morning. Well, authorities in northern Gaza are urging residents not to return to their homes following news of an Israeli withdrawal. The Governance Emergency Committee says Israeli drones are firing at civilians. Video shows widespread destruction, buildings collapsed or destroyed, and streets covered in rubble. A local journalist says the Israeli military withdrew from central and west of Jabalia camp, but remain in the north and eastern areas of the camp. A Minneapolis police officer is among 3 people killed in an ambush. Officer Jamal Mitchell was responding to a call of a shooting at an apartment complex when he noticed 2 injured individuals. He stopped to assist. Officers and a paramedic were killed in a Minneapolis suburb while responding to a domestic violence call. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts declines to meet with lawmakers about 2 flags hoisted at Justice Samuel Alito's properties. The meeting was requested by Democratic Senators Dick Durbin and Sheldon Whitehouse, who wanted to, quote, address the Supreme Court's ethics crisis. In his letter, Roberts cited judicial independence and separation of powers concerns. He also wrote that it would be inadvisable to meet with representatives of one party who have an interest in matters pending before the court. Alito wrote to lawmakers that he will not recuse himself from January 6 cases. He says his wife was the one who flew the flags. Nissan telling drivers of nearly 84,000 cars not to drive them until they get their airbags fixed. Their Takata airbags are part of an open recall, but models are certain 2002 to 2006 Sentras, 2002 to 2004 Pathfinders, and 2002 to 2003 Infiniti QX4s. Nissan will provide free towing, repairs, and in some cases, a rental car. A 12-year-old from Florida is waking up a champion. He beat 244 other competitors to win the 96th annual Scripps National Spelling Bee.
Bruhat Soma, you are the 2024 Scripps National Spelling Bee. Congratulations.
Now that was the moment young Bruhat Soma secured the top spot in the competition after the second ever spell off, when the two top contenders had to spell as many words as possible in just 90 seconds. In addition to the big trophy, Soma took home a $50,000 prize along with a reference library from Merriam-Webster. IMPRE SSVE, getting your national and local headlines on the go. Just download the free Spectrum News app. It's available in the App Store and on Google Play. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
The 2024 election will decide who leads our nation and the balance of power in Congress, impacting all of us. From Capitol Hill to the Oval Office, let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth coverage with our dedicated experts in local politics. Of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to 100% U.S.-based.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. And she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, "Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you, and we'll figure it out."